Ethan Cole was known across the city as a visionary, sharp, disciplined, and intimidating. Under his leadership, Cole Dynamics had grown into a billion-dollar company. Yet, as success expanded, something in Ethan began to ache. He noticed smiles fading, conversations shrinking, and warmth turning into competition. The workplace had become a battlefield of ambition, and the one thing missing was humanity. One evening, after a long board meeting filled with polite lies and forced enthusiasm, Ethan sat alone in his glass office, staring at the skyline. The lights of the city blinked like silent stars. He whispered to himself, "They'll do anything for money, but how many would do something for kindness?" That night he made a decision, one that no one saw coming. The next morning, the CEO didn't arrive in his black Tesla or crisp tailored suit. Instead, a man in worn jeans, an old gray jacket, and a faded cap walked through the side entrance. His shoes were scuffed and his hands looked rough. The security guard barely glanced at him. Ethan had transformed into Eddie, a temporary janitor filling in for the week. No one recognized him. Few even looked at him long enough to care. The first day was an awakening. He mopped floors while employees brushed past without eye contact. In the cafeteria, he carried trays, replaced trash bags, and quietly observed. What he saw broke his heart. One woman dropped her coffee near the elevators. Several employees stepped around it, complaining about the mess, none offering help. A man in a suit complained loudly that the janitor missed a spot. Another slammed his cup on a table and demanded a fresh one from the cafeteria staff. No one said thank you. By the third day, Ethan began losing faith. Perhaps kindness had no place in corporate halls anymore. He was ready to end the experiment, until one small voice stopped him. "Hey sir, you okay? You look tired." Ethan turned. A young woman, maybe in her late 20s, stood beside him. She had auburn hair tied in a loose bun, freckles across her cheeks, and warm brown eyes that somehow smiled before her lips did. Her name tag read, Sophie Miller, HR assistant. He blinked. "Oh, I'm fine. Just long shift." Sophie frowned. "Here." She handed him a bottle of water from her bag. "It's hot in here and you've been cleaning non-stop. Take a break." Ethan hesitated. No one had even noticed his exhaustion before, let alone cared. "You don't need to." "I know," she interrupted gently. "But sometimes kindness isn't about needing to. It's about wanting to." Those words lingered in his mind long after she left. Over the next few days, Sophie continued to surprise him. She greeted the receptionist by name, helped an intern who dropped papers in the hallway, and stayed late to comfort a colleague who was crying in the restroom after being scolded by her manager. Ethan quietly observed every act. None of it was for attention. Sophie didn't know anyone was watching. It was just who she was. On Friday, Ethan decided to take the test one step further. He intentionally spilled a bucket of water in the hallway, right outside the conference room where the senior staff was gathered for an important meeting. As he bent down pretending to clean, the CFO stormed out and snapped, "Can't you see we're busy here? Do this later." Others glared, muttered under their breath, and walked away. But Sophie came running. "Oh my God, are you hurt?" she asked, kneeling beside him. She helped him steady the bucket, grabbed paper towels from the break room, and began drying the floor. "You could get in trouble for delaying the meeting," he warned softly. She smiled. "Then I'll explain that people come before meetings." Something in Ethan's chest stirred. A mix of guilt and admiration. How many times had he forgotten that simple truth? When the workday ended, Ethan slipped out quietly and returned home. That night he stood before his mirror, wiping away the fake dirt from his face, revealing the CO once more. But his reflection didn't look the same. For the first time in years he felt human again. The company buzzed with excitement. The CEO himself was back after a week away. Rumors flew around about new promotions, budgets, and a potential merger. But Ethan had something very different in mind. He called for a company-wide meeting. The auditorium filled with employees, eager to impress or fearful of what was coming. Ethan walked on stage, his calm voice echoing through the hall. "Last week," he began, "I conducted a test. Not for performance, not for productivity, but for kindness." Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. Ethan continued, "I disguised myself as a janitor. I worked beside you unseen and ignored. And what I saw," he paused, his tone heavy, "was disappointing." A tense silence filled the room. Faces turned pale. Some shifted uncomfortably. "Most of you," Ethan said, "walked past without a glance. Some were rude. A few even complained. But one person—" He stopped, scanning the crowd until his eyes met Sophie's, who looked both confused and nervous. "Showed compassion without expecting anything in return." He gestured for her to come forward. The employees whispered among themselves as Sophie hesitantly walked onto the stage. "This," Ethan said proudly, "is Sophie Miller. She treated a janitor with the same respect she'd give a CEO. And that's the kind of heart I want leading this company forward." Tears welled in Sophie's eyes as the room erupted in applause. She shook her head, stunned. "Sir, I didn't do anything special." Ethan smiled gently. "That's exactly what makes it special." He turned to the crowd. "You see, success without kindness is failure in disguise. You can be brilliant, but if you can't be kind, you've missed the point." That day, Sophie was promoted to head of employee relations, responsible for rebuilding the company culture around empathy and respect. Ethan worked closely with her, ensuring that kindness was no longer an afterthought, but the foundation of Coal Dynamics. Months later, during a quiet lunch break, Ethan and Sophie stood by the office windows overlooking the city. Rain gently tapped against the glass. "Do you ever think people can really change?" Sophie asked softly. Ethan smiled. "They already have. Because of you." She laughed shyly. "Because of me?" He nodded. "Sometimes it takes one kind soul to remind everyone else what being human really means." Sophie looked out at the skyline, her reflection blending with his in the window. Two people who had started on opposite ends of the corporate world, now united by something far greater than titles or salaries: the power of kindness. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan Cole didn't just feel like a CEO. He felt like a better man,